The most dangerous and mysterious type of energy is the energy of thought. Thought energy was the first type of energy in actual terms, used by man since his eyes opened to his life. The era of living energy. The path has been difficult for man since his inception to pass that long journey of experiments and development with its mistakes and successes, until he was able to control nature and create a new world that is the world of technology. The first use of the energy necessary for him to secure his life after the energy of thought was the energy of his muscles, which he strengthened with the tools he made and used, starting with his artifacts of flintstone and gradually developing over tens of thousands of years, to become more severe and deadly in order to reduce the energy needed to be used. Man's discovery of fire. The discovery of fire is considered the most important event for the first man during the millions of years took him to transform into a modern man. Possession of fire made man the most powerful being on the planet. In the beginning, he was not able to obtain fire by his own. It was ignited without his intervention when lightning strikes. Forests burn, volcanoes erupt, or they remain burning with gases rushing through natural cracks in the petroleum areas, which he did not know something about. The most important discovery in the ancient era was man's learning how to light a fire by his own will. The first man learned how to light a fire by his own will when he knew how to strike hard stones with each other forcefully to generate the spark needed to ignite the dry tree leaves, where this step was the first steps towards his possession of the forces of nature. At first, fire was used only for heating and lighting, and to keep out and scare off predators. Then it was used to cook his food, which anthropologists believe was the reason for the increase in brain size. It is proven that the first human ate grilled meat, and this led to its supply of energy, which gradually changed him to make him the strongest mammal capable of thinking. After it lived on picking fruits that did not provide him with the sufficient amount of energy that the body needs for growth. The human brain alone consumes a fifth of the vital energy inside the body. Fire gradually organized man's life and made him feel that he is not a slave to nature, but rather an equal to it, by subjugating him in part to one of the most powerful forces of nature. But the human energy generation capabilities remained as they were in the past, confined to the strength of his muscles and the strength of his bones. During the first period of time in the history of human development, it was reliance on muscles only in performing various activities. And at that time it did not have any other sources of energy. The man's strength was measured by January 10th of a horse, which is hardly enough to obtain the minimum sustenance needed to survive and fortify himself in a primitive hideout from the bad and treacherous weather. With the development of the first human being, he gained new experiences and knowledge. And new industries arose in the first human gatherings in Old Egypt. With the development of mining, the needs for energy that it provided increased. By increasing the number and quantity of muscles with the increase in the number of workers. In the quarries, flint was extracted and the stones needed for construction were stored. The same is true of agricultural crops. Then it began to be sent to consumers over long distances, and it became inevitably the emergence of the administration that establishes a clear division of labor and workers. Some of them work on the site, others work in transport and others for marketing. Hard or soft? Hard power was the military force necessary for control, and soft power was the doctrine necessary to convince subordination to the god who represented him and was represented by the dominant ruler. And each of them had its strong men with great valor necessary for his success in performing his job in front of his leader, whether he was a prince, king, pharaoh, or priest. Creed to complete control of followers. Rulers and priests used beliefs as a means to exploit them and exploit their muscle energy by exploiting the innate human fear of the unknown and the fear inherent in man towards nature. Phenomena and events that were not understood at the time. Which is the idea of the temple that gathers people, which spread throughout the country and its width. which enabled them to summon the masses of people to them instead of the trouble of communicating with them each separately, and this would be on a regular periodic basis so that the priests would lead prayers and the worshippers would repeat after them Amon. Amon. Amon means invisible God in ancient Egyptian. Then it moved to Judaism and then Christianity, where the worshippers chant Amun. 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 Then to Islam where the worshippers say Ameen. 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 Mysterious or profound energy. There is a technology that was present in those ancient Egyptian societies that built temples of huge stones that we do not understand how they were cut and equipped because we are not used to thinking of stone buildings as being tech. But with some scrutiny of the types and sources of those stones that were used in the construction of these temples, especially the pyramids, the method of construction itself, and the distinctive physical characteristics of each type of these rocks, we will wonder if the different characteristics of these rocks, along with the way they are used, constitute something meaningful. We discovered a miraculous thing when contemplating and studying these huge buildings, which is that these buildings were built over an unusual geological nature that contains a daily electromagnetic center. Flow like what occurs everywhere on the surface of the planet, but there are certain types of layers of the earth that increase these currents, especially those in which lines intersect with those currents. In those places, the old builders preferred to construct their buildings. There are many theories about how these buildings work to collect energy, but they all agree on the ability of these buildings to intensify electromagnetic energy and harness it in the service of the human being who built it. The story of the electromagnetic energy of the earth and its intensity with the water currents running underground is a certain fact. It was discovered that the pyramid lies above a network of tunnels and lakes, including the Turin Papyrus, which was written during the reign of Ramses II. The direction of each side of the pyramid is almost perfectly parallel to the four original directions, namely north, south, east and west. The angles of the base of the pyramid are between 89.56 degrees and 90.30 degrees. Which means an error rate that does not exceed 0.7%, while the length of any side in the pyramid is 227 meters, and the difference between the longest and shortest side does not exceed 0.20 meters. The Bedouins in the desert, when they search for the places where the water is underground, they put an egg on its side in the palm of the hand and walk with it cautiously until it erects standing on its base due to the effect of the electromagnetic waves that are more focused than its surroundings as a result of the movement of the groundwater beneath it. So that the Bedouin knows that he is standing above the ground that should be he has to dig in. The energy that emanates from these places is at its peak during the changes that occur in the geomagnetic fields of the Earth. Whenever a change occurs in the magnetic field, this generates electrical energy and anything that is present in that location is electrically conductive. The flow of water generates an average electric charge, which means an electric current and therefore a magnetic field. If you want to give an electric charge to anything that rises slightly from the ground, you need at least running water. In school physics tests, we know that if you take a stream of water from a tap, divide it into two separate streams, and then place a sensitive measuring device, LED, between the two streams, you can see the indicator lights up every period. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the genius Nikola Tesla, famous for his inventions in the field of electromagnetism, simulated what happens when generating electricity at the pyramids more than 5,000 years ago with the help of underground water channels, and that in a tower that Tesla built over underground water passages like the one under the pyramids, and he discharged negative ions from the passages to the tower. The technology used in the famous Tesla Tower was identical to the technology used to build the pyramids. As an explicit example to confirm the existence of a magnetic field and the existence of cosmic energy under the surface of the planet Earth, this can be confirmed by a simple experiment. When you stand at the top of the pyramid with a bottle covered with a wet cloth, sparks will fly from the bottle as if you were standing on top of a high voltage conductor. It is a simple physical principle known as induction, or the transfer of electrical energy from one body to another, which is a known cosmic principle. In daily life, we do not see a large concentration of this energy, as it usually appears on the tops of mountains. Electricity and magnetism have a great influence and are able to modify all other laws of physics. It is known that the movement of water through the limestone generates electric charges through two different mechanisms, each of which stimulates the other. The era of wind energy. The ancient Egyptians and Phoenicians were among the first to know the sail and the use of wind power. They used the sail, which was a piece of sturdy cloth that helped to sail in the direction of the wind, to sail to the mouth of the Nile, where they organized profitable trade with the Egyptians. 2,500 years ago, they completed the first sails mentioned by history around Africa. And finally, what after the transition of the ancient Egyptian civilization to the Greeks and Romans, and the beginning of a new era? We will know in the next video.
Do not forget to subscribe to the channel to receive what we hope will be useful. Follow us.